This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our Lunch and Learn today, the ripple effect of supply chain shortages and outdated software. In today's work from anywhere, fast-paced world, we can no longer afford to have outdated software. Now, our customers expect more and our businesses deserve more. And your team deserves something better than just a hodgepodge, band-aid mixture of Excel reports, out of date, inaccurate information, and frustration that can be caused by outdated software. So we're Blaze IT. My name is Renee Foddy, and I am the business development leader here at Blaze IT. And then our president, David Dozer, is also on the line today. David will be doing the demo for us, and we'd love to talk to you guys. We were named one of CIO Review's top 10 ERP solution providers for 2021. And here at Blaze IT, we solve business software problems. So our business, as I said, is based here in Houston, Texas, but we work with clients all across the United States. And our focus is on transitioning clients that have either outgrown their current software, or fed up with their out-of-date software to Acumatica, which is a modern cloud-based solution. Now, our typical clients are in the industrial goods, distribution, manufacturing, and food and beverage industries. But we're experienced in working with clients that range from job shop environments that are very small to complex multinational distribution facilities. And then we bring our expertise into every project that we do and focus on breaking those rather large projects into small bite-sized projects that your team can handle. Our goal is to replace outdated software and ineffective business software. And we take these very complex business problems, such as supply chain, which we're going to be talking about today, and break it down into simple steps that can help you. And we do that with technology. We know that software doesn't solve everything, but you have to have the right tool for your business to be successful. And we know that having the right software sure does help. And then one of the reasons that we recommend Acumatica to our clients is that it can easily grow with you and doesn't require a lot of complex coding and ongoing consultations and consulting for your business. We want you to be able to own your software, own your processes, and then own your ERP system, after you work with us. So, which piece is missing in your supply chain puzzle? In just a few minutes, David will be showing us how we can solve some of these supply chain puzzle pieces. He'll be going over how we can get your business real-time information and automate many tasks that you have to remember to do on a daily basis. He'll also be showing us, how to drill into late purchase orders and contacting your vendors directly from Acumatica to save you guys time and headaches. No one likes clicking all around in a system and trying to figure out those puzzle pieces. Everything should be, in front of you and easy to access. And then we all know that a customer that is receiving a late order due to a supply chain disruption needs to find out sooner rather than later that something has happened. And this is all intrinsically linked. So we need to be able to highlight and see all of the components and pieces that will be affected if there is a supply chain disruption and how we can move forward to minimize that and that effect to our clients. So the goal of updating your system should always be to improve your customer satisfaction, optimize your team, and your inventory. Now, ways that we help with this are by giving you a system that can help you fulfill your orders as you've promised. We want you to have real-time access to inventory levels. And we want to use automation to increase your inventory turns and inventory accuracy. So all of that ties into your supply chain and making sure that it's not as disrupted as it could be. There are things in today's world with the pandemic and shortages that do come up, but having the visibility and the tools to react quickly and make quick decisions are what is key to making you successful. Your system should be able to account for min-max order quantities. You should be able to have reorder points. It should, consider your seasonality of your business, your lead times, your safety stock, and be able to forecast and calculate your replenishment levels. Your system should also allow for you to manage and set up multiple warehouse locations if you need that, and different stocking locations. So now I'm going to turn it over to David Dozer to show us in real time how Acumatica can help you guys with some of these software solutions for your supply chain.
Great, thanks Renee. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen out here. All right, perfect. And you should be able to see my Acumatica screen, and we're really going to hammer home on a lot of the points that Renee brought up the PowerPoint presentation there. There's a lot of external factors that contribute to supply chain delays, shortages of material, late production, and late orders. And frankly, a lot of those are outside of your direct control. It's issues further up in the supply chain. Maybe your suppliers have shortages. So there's a lot of things that happen that can ultimately impact your end customer. But with a integrated system with great real-time information and visibility into everything that's happening, you can really help at least to get on top of those, mitigate those challenges, and plan better for the future. And that's what we really kind of help folks do with Acumatica, is leverage the platform to get that whole 365-degree view into your business. Now, today we're going to be very focused on the purchasing and supply chain pieces. So what I have in front of me here is a sample of a purchasing manager dashboard. And the idea with the dashboards within Acumatica is to get quick access to stuff that really matters to you and your role. And in this case, staying on top of both our vendors and our purchasing and understanding how that's going to impact our ability to fulfill orders later on down the chain. So you can see here, there's a lot of great stuff that's telling me what I need to do and what I need to take action on. So for example, I've got a key performance indicator here telling me that I have 3 items that I need to go ahead and go out and purchase, as well as things like overdue receipts. So that's something we're going to drill down into, because we're going to really need to take a look at that and understand how that's going to be impactful for us, as well as at a higher level what our overall vendor performance is and which suppliers maybe aren't really performing up to snuff. Again, all things that we want to be actionable, and it's all real-time data that I can look at and say, hey, I need to do something about this. And it doesn't mean I have to go run some outside report or necessarily call somebody or even go out and find a spreadsheet somewhere on a shared drive. All of the information is right at my fingertips within the system. So let's say, for example, I want a little more data about my late suppliers here. So I can hover over, it's going to show me how many days this particular supplier is late, and I can drill down to get more detailed information about that. So I can see overall, they're 165 days late with an average days late of 16 days. So you know what, I really need to do something about that. So we need to reach out, contact this vendor, try to solve these problems, and then I may even need to take some more drastic action right in the system. So let's say, for example, I can go ahead and click here on my right bar, and I'm going to see all of the information about that particular vendor. Now we can see we've got an outstanding balance with those guys right now. So, until they kind of get their act cleaned up, we're going to say, you know what, we're going to hold payments for this vendor until we get these problems solved. Then maybe we even communicate with the quality team as well and provide some extra documentation to say, there's also been some quality issues with this, and we want to track and manage all of that right in the Acumatica system. So let's say, for example, I've got this PDF quality report here that's maybe generated outside perhaps, and I want to go ahead and link that up so we have some additional proof and information to go back to this supplier with to remedy those problems. So I can just grab this quality report, and I'll drag and drop that onto their vendor screen here. And what that'll do for me is go ahead and link that up into the system. So now we have a record of that quality data right inside of the Acumatica application, so I can pop that open and see that without having to go out to some secondary file. So again, that's at a very high level of just that vendor management and vendor relationship. So that's kind of, in this example, almost a little too late in that, you know, they've had some bad performance. We're looking at remedying that performance. But, you know, now we want to kind of say, hey, how can we get on top of things a little bit better and be a little more proactive from our side before we get into these situations where, you know, we're averaging 2 weeks late time on vendors and with particular items. So again, going back to my purchasing manager workspace here, let's say, for example, now I want to really drill in and take a look at these overdue receipts. So this is something that I can get into and, you know, hopefully remedy before it impacts us all the way down through our supply chain in a negative fashion. So let's say go ahead and drill down into these receipts. Now, one of the great things about having a modern system as well is you're going to have the ability to really slice and dice information as you want to see it. So very quickly, I can say, okay, just give me, you know, ones that are in this month, for example. So I can click on my top filter, filter down to just this month, and say, okay, PO 1634 here, you know, it was promised on 9/20. So it's highlighting in red here to indicate to me that this particular purchase order, we have not received the goods for this yet. And this is going to potentially have an impact on our ability to produce items as well as to ship product as well. So probably this is behind because, you know, circuit boards and things of that nature have kind of been backed up, but we need to do a little digging and figure out, you know, why we're having these issues, what the problem is, and go from there. So without leaving this particular screen, I can get additional information about this PO. So in one click, I can just come over here to the right, and this is going to show me the actual purchase order, you know, associated with this transaction. So I can see right here that we ordered this on the 1st. It was promised on the 20th. So now we're already over a week late on the delivery of that circuit board. So let's take some action on that as well. So I can also go ahead and pop open this purchase order here so we can see it a little better. And from this purchase order, I can interact externally with our supplier. So I want to shoot them a note and say, hey, you know, what's going on with this PO? Why is it late? What's going on with this? So up here under my activities, I can actually track every single thing that happens that's really more of an interaction than a transaction. So as we're looking at individual things like purchase orders, we can have all this sort of auxiliary information get tracked within the Acumatica system. So for example, let's say I want to go ahead and send that email out to that supplier and find out what's happening. I can just say I want to add an email and pick which contact I want to send it to. And you'll notice too, this tags certain information to this email that's pertinent to the communication. So the purchase order number, who the vendor is, the date of the PO, so on and so forth. So again, the system is linking all of this stuff up for me. So I could add some details, you know, about this and just checking on this order. And then that's going to allow me to send this right from the application. So, you know, email happens. It's a thing that just, you know, is part of how we communicate with the outside world. The great thing about that though, is doing it from within the application, anyone else has the ability to then come in, see that communication, so it creates this full transparency. So in that way, when they respond, we can get that response into the system as well, and there's no questions. The production manager can come in, see what's going on. The CFO can come in and see what's going on. So it covers really all aspects of supply chain communication that a lot of times will happen externally to a system. And then finally, I can even add a little note onto the purchase order as well, just to let anyone else that comes in know that I've reached out. Again, there's lots of ability to interact with data without necessarily having to go to outside places and outside systems and work with it outside of there. Now, we've reached out to the vendor, and ultimately we want to find out, what the issue is and try to resolve that. But in the meantime, that's obviously created some issues for us internally. So because those circuit boards are going to arrive late, we need to understand what sort of impact that is going to have down the chain on our production, and then ultimately on our ability to fulfill orders for our customers as well. So again, without having to go to another system or an Excel sheet or something like that, you've got the ability to see all of that related information all in one spot. So with this particular PO still highlighted, I can come over and say, okay, I want to see any late production that uses this particular component in it. So that way I can see and filter on and say, okay, well, here's the orders that we're potentially going to have an issue with. So I can go ahead and make this full screen here so we can see this a little better. And let's just maybe take a look at orders that we have planned coming up. So we can see we have 4 production orders out there that are going to potentially or are already late because of this delay in our supply chain. So then that prompts us to, maybe talk with production. Can we swap out the component for something else? Really start to have those conversations around what do we need to do to solve these sort of challenges, because, as Renee mentioned, there's a lot of external factors that happen. So we don't necessarily have control over all of that. But what we do have control over is how we handle that internally and move forward with it. So for example, we could come down and look at this first production order, and let's go ahead and take a look at all of the material that's going to be on that production order. So in just a couple clicks, I was able to drill down and see, there's that circuit board that's causing us a delay on this order. So, can we maybe swap that out with something else? If so, we could just delete that off and go ahead and add that component onto this order. So because we have an integrated system, we can quickly make those sort of determinations and swap that out. So maybe we had a different board laying around that we could potentially use in lieu of this one. So we could just put that on the production order and then go ahead and move forward with it. So it's really about having the right information, at the right time. But let's say in this example, I reached out to the production manager and she said, we can't swap that out. We got to have that board. So, let's see if we can't expedite this and get it moving. So in which case we are going to be late on some orders, unfortunately. But again, we want to get ahead of that and communicate to our customers quickly and in real time that there's going to be a delay, so that we don't, wait for them to call us angry. So in the same view, we can actually see which sales orders are impacted by this particular component being late. So let's say, for example, I drill down into this sales order so we can get some additional, information about that. So I can see that component goes into this Keurig. This customer's ordered 40 of these. and they requested it today. So we're already behind. There's no way that we're going to be able to deliver this to them today. So let's get ahead of it and reach out and let them know that there's going to be an issue with that. So I'm on the purchasing side right now. So it may not necessarily be my role or my place to reach out and contact this customer. So let's say I want to let the sales manager know that there is an issue with this particular order. So very similar to what we did on the purchase order there with adding an email, I can also add internal tasks for other folks within the organization to follow up with. So, let's say, and Maxwell here is the owner of this particular order, so that all defaults in for me. And, I've got some predefined stuff here I'm just gonna throw in. And this is going to send a communication then to Maxwell to let him know, hey, you need to reach out to this customer and let them know that this particular order is going to be late, see what we need to do to mitigate that. So again, it's about communication based off of the transactional data that's happening in the system, where a lot of times those things just get lost in emails and phone calls and post-it notes. So I'm going to go ahead and create this, and you'll see that actually adds that particular task to the sales order. So again, these are all things that can be automated as well. So we're kind of doing it manual here for the sake of the demonstration, but any sort of activity can be based on an event that is monitoring data in the system. So maybe automatically once we pass that requested on date, we want to send out a task to someone. You can have the system do all that for you behind the scenes, and then it's all collected in one spot. So let's take a look and see how that actually impacts Maxwell, our sales manager here. So I'm going to switch to a different dashboard, in this case, the sales manager. So obviously the sales manager there sees a lot of different types of information from what the purchasing person would see there. But what we're specifically looking at here is under my task. So we created that task, and Maxwell can now see, hey, I've got something that I need to interact with. So we can drill down into that to get the information around, what we just created. And I can take a look at it and say, oh, well, geez, this is going to be late, so I need to reach out and contact this customer and see what to do with this sales order, if we can push it out, if we need to swap it out for something else. And, it was due today, so I obviously want to expedite that particular communication. So right from that task, I can go ahead and drill into that sales order. So again, I'm not having to go to different screens and click around all over the place. And I can take the same sort of actions on this sales order as we did with creating the task. So I can even come in, and let's say this customer, not a big email fan, so we always call them. I can still track that phone call as an activity so that we don't lose any sort of that communication that goes on. So again, we're keeping track of everything that happens on both sides, whether it's on the supplier side or the customer side, so that we as an organization can continue to get better and evolve as well as we work through these different challenges. So I call the customer up and they say, you know what, yeah, that's okay. If you can push it out till next week, we'll still be okay with it. So then it's just as easy as managing my dates and say, okay, I'm going to push this out to the 5th. And if I had a very large order, I wouldn't want to necessarily go through and have to update the dates on every single line item. So the system's smart enough as well to say, hey, do you want to go ahead and update the shipping dates on everything on this order? So I can say yes, and that's going to update that order for me. So now that's not going to show up as late any longer there. So those are some really great examples of just how to work within the specific kind of parameters of what's going on in the outside world. So I can go ahead and complete this now, and we've finished that particular transaction. Now, one of the kind of issues there is, we're still kind of having to be reactionary and working with outside problems and handling those and managing those, and we can get better with that by having all of those transactions and interactions in one particular place. But kind of looking again in a more proactive way, what can we do to make sure that we're giving our suppliers enough lead time, that we're ordering things when we need to? And that's when things like min-max levels, reorder points, even materials requirement planning really come into play. So at a very basic level, kind of coming back to my purchasing manager dashboard here, let's say I just drill down into my 3 purchase suggestions here. So this is getting ahead of those shortages. So, saying based on certain levels of safety stock that we have and certain reorder points, the system is telling us ahead of time with appropriate lead time when we need to order something and how much of something we need to order as well. And again, I can see a lot of pertinent information around these things too. So let's just say, for example, I want to see all of the item data for this this particular product. I can get right to that, and I can get very specific with how we plan for this item. So as Renee was mentioning too, we want to be able to plan for things in a lot of different ways. So, for example, do we plan by a min-max level or a fixed reorder point? What service levels do we want to keep? So generally 84% is pretty standard. So, figuring out that data to say, okay, we always want to be able to fulfill orders 84% of the time without there being a back order. You've got the ability to establish those things within the application. And I can even set up specific seasonalities as well. So for example, if you're kind of a Q4 loaded business for the holiday season, you can ramp up what Acumatica tells us we need to purchase for that particular season, and then smooth that back out through the rest of the year. So those kind of more advanced replenishment calculations, what those really allow us to do is not have to do all the things that we just did with communicating with the customer and putting vendors on hold and having tough conversations. Is we can really put our arms around how we plan, how we purchase, and get ahead of those curves. Now, there's always going to be outliers and special situations that, that we have to solve for, but the ability to set that up in the system and have it, really tell us what we need to purchase, whether we're a manufacturer and we need to purchase components to put into the things we build, or even if we're just a straight distribution company and we need to purchase these things, bring them into our warehouse and, fulfill from there, you've got that ability. And we can support multiple warehouses as well and different replenishments per warehouse. So maybe, in order to optimize your supply chain, maybe even have third-party logistics providers or your own warehouses spread out, all over the country as an example, or even in different countries, and you want to be able to order to those warehouses, sell from those warehouses, and have different replenishment requirements to those warehouses. The Acumatica system handles all of that as well. And you'll see here, I can quickly look at, my retail warehouse, my wholesale warehouse, and see what I have on hand at each one of those warehouses, as well as any specific seasonality at those and how we purchase it. So again, you can be very granular in how you apply, those sort of parameters to your purchasing and the managing of components and inventory. So it's a very deep and powerful tool that really, allows you to wrap your arms around that whole supply chain, from purchasing to the manufacturing execution, all the way to the delivery of sales orders And again, manage all of those external communications that happen as well, all in one spot, all with the documentation that you need to see to manage those relationships, and frankly, quickly and easily get to all of that data. So hopefully we were able to show you today how Acumatica can really help you get your arms around your supply chain, managing all the way down to a detailed level, all of those interactions, and let the system work for you as opposed to the other way around. You know, when we implement Acumatica for our clients, it's really about taking all this stuff that happens externally and spreadsheets and emails and sometimes in people's heads, and translating that into the system so that you can just come in at the beginning of your day, sit down at a dashboard, hit the refresh button, and have the system tell you what you need to take action on. So you can be proactive as opposed to being reactionary when you're getting angry emails from customers and people screaming about where their orders are at. Let Acumatica do the heavy lifting and help you manage your day in a lot better way. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Renee to close us out today, and appreciate everyone hopping on.
Thank you, David, for that demo today. We really appreciate it. Changing software is hard, but living with ineffective software is also hard. So we're here to help, you move forward and take more control of your supply chain, more control of your customer satisfaction, more control of your inventory. And we're here to offer a free consultation to everyone today on the call. Feel free to reach out to myself, Renee at blazeitweb.com, or David at blazeitweb.com, or check out our website. We also have several other videos that may be helpful for you. And we would love to get to know you, your business a little bit more, and come up with a solution that fits your business's needs. If you, for some reason, did not receive your Grubhub voucher for lunch today, please reach out to me. I will have it resent to you. And we really appreciate your time. Thank you.